Okay. So anyone like to share just what your hope and or fear might be about this process?
I would really like to see one of my hopes for this is kind of a deepening of connection with our internal community and to the community around us, just to start to feel like there's better integration through the walls of the church to the community that surrounds us. We do a really good job for the size that we are, for sure. But I think there's such opportunity in our community for connection that I think that where we're located and the who we are inside of the church gives us really great opportunity there. And that's something I would really like to see us tap into even deeper than we are already.
Yeah.
And change that dynamic. Because I do know from people I've talked to, there's just such a fear for people in the community who have a spiritual calling to walk through the threshold and into the walls of the church. There's fear with that. And that's my hope, is to see that kind of melt away.
Yeah.
So that people feel more comfortable with that.
Good. Thank you.
It's just such a big deal.
Hey, could I ask everybody, unless you're speaking, mute yourself and we'll get rid of some of that. There, that's good. Anybody else?
Well, I kind of have two hopes. I have a selfish hope, and then I have a hope that's very similar to Andy's, and they're kind of connected. My selfish hope is that we become sustainable, and that's related to my fear that, just the pragmatic issue of finances and funding, so that we can continue to be our community and to reach out, and then that's the greater hope. That's I guess the altruistic hope, is that we can kind of increase our mission. Like Andy said, we do really well with what we have, but I would like to see that expand, where we could support, East Nashville Cooperative Ministry and some of the other things we're already doing, but that we could do it more effectively.
Good. Your fear? Just press your space bar. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. My fear is that that we'll basically run out of the finances, and we'll have to. We'll break apart. We'll either, I know everybody in the church is going to continue to have that good soul, and they'll find new homes or whatever. But I want to see us stay together and accomplish this.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share, or is that? Julie?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I had to use my phone because my device was dead. So I think someone in the meeting kind of captured the essence of what many people were feeling, is that we do go through this journey and then nothing changes. And that really sparked something in me. I'm like, boy, I sure hope that doesn't happen. Like, we want to grow and we want to thrive, per the whole statement of what we're doing is to thrive. But I hope we can find some creative ways to bring people in that will open it up to the larger community. It feels like just church in general, just for whatever reason, I don't know what those reasons are. Somebody who studies it probably does, but just aren't feeling like they can come in to the building. So it'd be great to find some really creative ways to have them feel like they're called into our building, and experience what we experience. But the fear is that we go through this and try our best, and then we really don't see much of a change. So that would be terrible.
You know, there's such a tension, isn't there? We're called to be a community facing external body of faith. And yet so much of our investment is in our gathering together in a place. So there's an internal and external tension there that's always present. And you really need both to be healthy. And that's quite a challenge, quite a challenge. Yeah, so it's both hope and fear there.
Yeah.
And you know, I think part of the challenge of leadership is knowing when to put your weight down. It's kind of like walking. It's left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. You put your weight down on one side or the other in order to make progress. And I think that's true internally and externally for a community of faith. Knowing when to maximize or to emphasize or to put our weight down, so to speak, in that area. And I think that part of the promise maybe of this next season is that we can experiment there and prioritize there and focus our energies around left foot, right foot, if you will, or whatever those things that may emerge in our conversations together. So
that's a great analogy, because you're moving forward with that.
That's right, and that's what our hope is. Yeah, I think that's that's a real tension in the task that lies before us.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Anything else? Do you remember the day that you met? I think you also did an exercise built around, and you were encouraged. And I just want to remind you of it. And this is really for your work and your benefit as you form as a team over this next year. One of the things that is so important is the establishment of a code of conduct, of behaviors, a covenant relationship that you establish as a team. Joel, you'll certainly be a part of that as the minister, but it really will become more about you together than any one of you individually. So I don't know how much you've done that. You probably began that work during that exercise that day and listed some of the values, things that would guide you as principles in your work together.
Bill, I hate to interrupt. Lauren is in the waiting room.
Oh, great. Yeah, I see her now. Thanks for the heads up.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's quite all right.
And yes, we had started that process during that meeting, and we knew we were going to have to revisit that in our first full meeting.
We won't do that together today, but I would like for you guys, you may want to do that in between now and our next meeting, but I would just say to you, don't underestimate the power of that kind of process together. As you list, those items, they can be anything around an individual level of commitment and priority. It might be how you going to communicate with one another, may have something to do with confidentiality or just honesty, humility, willingness to, just be transparent and honest with each other as you move forward. In every group, you'll form and you begin, these norms will hold you through the period of storms that always come up. Whenever you're dealing with something significant, meaningful work, you're going to have various perspectives that we all, and histories that we bring to the table. And so I want you to expect that, but I want you also to be equipped to manage your way through those things so that we can produce and accomplish the things that we hope to. I think one of the most important things in terms of team leadership is to recognize the challenge we have to model our, the behavior, the principles that guide us, who we are when we're at our best, but model that to the church so that it can become part of our culture as a congregation. And so I just want to call you to that, remind you, and, promise to pray for one another, promise to see this as a spiritual task. not just human decision making. So I'll just leave it at that. That's really for your work to do. That's not anything I can lay over, from the outside and say, hey, do this. I mean, I hope that you'll recognize the value of it. Any thoughts or question about that?
I totally agree with that. I mean, it's our commitment to our process.
Yes.
Is really what it is, which then leads the rest of our community to see we're committing then with them for all of us.
Yeah.
So we have to commit to each other first in that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to share as well. Let me say this to you. Joel had told me earlier, and one of the things that before you came on is that you had not yet elected or any officers that'll lead you through. I think that's fine. I think it's always good for the group to gel and to recognize one another's gifts and as you move forward. I want to encourage you to begin thinking about perhaps the possibility of, it'll be your decision, of co-chairs. One of the things co-chairs will do as we move through this process is they'll be giving a report back to the church, and you'll be speaking on behalf of what we're learning from one another, the data that emerges, etc. So those co-chairs and co-chairs give two different faces at least to the congregation of the leadership group, the team. So you might consider that. That doesn't have to be the case. You'll want to have some kind of secretary that will help kind of keep us on track, record minutes, make sure we're staying on task, that kind of thing. And there'll be other roles that will emerge as we identify the tasks that we have. So I just want you to also keep that in your frame and begin thinking about that with one another. Again, we won't do that today. I'm going to share this screen with you, and hopefully you will okay, can you see
I can.
Can you see this now, folks? Everybody see that? Is it the breadth of it enough to what are you looking at?
A semicircle.
Pardon?
Correct.
Yeah, the first one was the life cycle of congregations. Then now you've changed it to the mountain view with the renewal, revitalization, revisioning, and we see those look just like the ones we saw in the training.
Okay, great. That's what I was hoping you'd see. Are you seeing just the slide?
Yes.
Great. That's what I was hopeful. Okay. I want you to just hold this in the back of your head for a second. Give me just a quick, where did you decide that you are on this life cycle?
Does anybody remember?
Not on this one, but we
What
were
about
on
this
the.
one? What about this one?
Yeah, we were on the sort of revitalization or revisioning.
Oh, right. Yeah, just kind of right over the peak performance, if you will. And
I thought we were between nostalgia and questioning. Somewhere around in there is where we were in the curve, if that's what you're referencing there.
somewhere right in here.
Yep.
We
Yep.
haven't, I think we all agreed. We all agreed that there wasn't any polarization.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So one of the telltale indicators, it's not really rocket science, but if you can see and listen, when you start to talk more about your past than your future, you're tending to move down that slope at some point. When it's more about nostalgia, the good old days, as opposed to where we're headed, or even what's going on, around us today. There's almost a kind of eerie silence, if you will, and we speak and we're more comfortable talking about the way things used to be. So one of the things I hope that we'll be able to communicate to the congregation is this is not this is the state of the American church. You are not alone. The old phrase, misery loves company. We've got plenty of it. I mean, this is where it is. Unless a church is just in its founding years, it's just been established, when they're building, they're rallying around naming their beliefs, their initial goals, developing some governance and structure. Those are the things that build toward, okay, that's our heyday. But very seldom, it's very difficult to stay right at the peak performance. You're sliding one way or the other. It's every day's task. I mean, that's not rocket science. And so, for example, I was a pastor at a church for 32 years. We did five different times we recognized that we were over here in this revision, in a need for revisioning. And so that is common. And so what you'll want to communicate to the congregation is this is not, we're not coming in, we're not polarized, we're not near death. What we have an opportunity to revision and reshape our future. So what this Project Thrive can be, and one of the ways that you can talk about that and help them to see that, is this is an opportunity for us to have a fresh and compelling vision, one that will call forth fresh, committed energy for our future and to face the challenges that are ahead of us. Now, one of the things that we spent some time during orientation about was this whole concept of holy indifference. And I really hope Joel, from the pulpit leadership team, in the tone and through the heartbeat of the whole process, we need to communicate that this is not really about us making decisions, about human decision making, but it's more about God, seeking God's will for the life and future of our church. That's what Ignatius meant by holy indifference. I'm indifferent to anything but God's will, which sounds almost dissonant, cognitively dissonant to us, in the sense that I'm indifferent to anything but God's will. Yes, nothing, God's will first and foremost, above and all else. Remember the Mary's prayer and Jesus's prayer at the beginning and end of the Gospel of Luke. It's right. That's a prayer of holy indifference. So the point would be, do I need to set aside anything to be open to what God wants to do? I need something to die within me. In other words, we don't want to bring our own personal agendas to this. It's God's will first and foremost. And that really will be the challenge for the church as we move through this process. So whatever it is that we can do to foster, to solidify this foundation, that it's one of discernment all the way through the process. No one of us has all the answers. And we're going to try some things, fail, and then try again. So that kind of spirit of transparency, of vulnerability, of humility, of discernment should characterize what we're doing. James said it like that. Let's ask for wisdom. And so that's what we'll do. The other thing in terms of methodology is that we're going to really focus on our strengths. We're not going to be oblivious to the problems or deficits that we might have, but we're going to put our weight down more on the good, the positive, the core of who we are when we're at our best. We're not going to be consistently asking what's wrong, what's broken around here. We've all been on enough committees where that's all we did was problem solve. And that's not life-giving. It's energy draining. So we're going to ask what's right about us and how do we build on that? That's the appreciative aspect of this. We know if we continue to look for problems, we'll find them. If we look for what's best and learn from it, then we can magnify our success. So from a methodological standpoint, that's the way we're going to go forward. And so just as your congregational coach, I'm going to hold you to that. At least I'll be, not that we're not going to be oblivious. We're going to deal with real life, but we're going to always go back to what's working well. Okay. And so you can expect that from me, because I think that's the healthiest way forward for us. Anything about the theological foundation or our methodology that you have question about?
You know, Bill, it reminds me of the old natural church development program that we were using in church planting years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember being exposed to it the first time, and I was sort of surprised. I think a lot of pastors are, because they think, well, we really got to shore up our weaknesses, right?
Oh yeah.
And so that first time I read that, and I thought, this is right. It makes a whole lot more sense to continue to be stronger at your strengths and to put them out front and process.
Yeah. You know, I for about 3 years, I was a cognitive coach in Kentucky schools. And so I don't know how many times we did in these meetings and stuff, SWOT analysis, you know, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. But inevitably, the weaknesses quadrant it was the fullest, and it dominated the most time. And we hardly ever could break out of that frame, if you will. And not that it's not necessary. You got to stand in front of the mirror, but if you don't ever look through the window and out beyond yourself, you never move forward. So that's going to be our aim all along the way. Now, I want to give you briefly just a big picture of what we're going to do over the course of this next year. And what you've been elected, and I'm assuming your church will decide how this works for you, obviously, but you've at least committed to this first year of this Project Thrive. I don't think anybody dared to come to you, Andrew, and say, hey, will you commit 5 years to this? I don't think they did that.
I thought this was 5 years.
I don't know that you're committed to this yet, but over the course of, so I want to give you this first year's big picture. We're going to have 3 congregational conversations, okay? Past, present, and future. Now, in today's extraordinary time, that's going to happen on Zoom, at least initially, and then we'll see as we move through the course of the year what that looks like. It may be that it'll become a hybrid one where we'll offer both, depending, which may seem likely. You'll decide that based on your setting. But the first conversation, we would love to have it happen in October, November. Of course, October's 10 days in. So we'd like for it to happen before the end of this year. We know that during December, just depending on your context, that may be more difficult just for holidays, etc. But this past conversation will, in big picture, the takeaway is we want to come away with the core positives of Memorial Lutheran. This is who we are when we're at our best. Who are we when we're at our best? Why are we here? What do we bring with us as we point ourselves and begin to face the future and the challenges of the present? What would that look like? What do we build upon? That's the purpose of this initial conversation, identifying our central traits. The second conversation, which we've got kind of targeted for the January, February calendar, is our present. Let's look at where we are today. What's our vision? What do we see when we look in the mirror? What do we see when we look through the window in our community? What are we especially thankful for as we see ourselves, recognize the challenges, the opportunities that are around us as we look forward? that's when we'll really do, that's when those assessment pieces, Joel, that we have, that's when we'll really begin to look at ourselves and our community in this present context. Then following that conversation, we'll look into the future. Where do we sense God leading us as a church? Who might God be calling us to become? It's absolutely my favorite of the three conversations. It's when we will ask the church to join us in groups to, whether it be table conversations or on Zoom in breakout groups, we'll be dreaming God-sized dreams for our church and community. That will be our challenge. And that work, those dreams will become and then be shaped into strategic initiatives for us over the next 5 years. So big picture, that's where we're headed. Any questions or about that? Is that clear enough? So you see, that's really going to be the essence of your work in terms of your engagement with the congregation over these next 6 to 8 months. Here is the path that we're going to follow. We're going to be asking what's right about us. We're going to be identifying our positive core. We're going to begin conversation with the congregation and with one another around, okay, how would we build on that? We're going to take those core strengths or positives and we're going to push them then into the future. We realize that we're going to take our best selves, the narratives that shaped us, the memories that we have, the reasons that we have stayed at Memorial Lutheran when other people have left. We're going to take those core positives and say, we may not do it the same as we used to do it, but we're going to take those things and identify new methodology. What will it look like to do that today? What would 2025 look like if we did that really well? And we'll design then a path over these next years together of moving us from today to that new reality. You'll remember those 7 traits of thriving congregations that we learned and bubbled up in these mentor type churches across the country. Those will become kinds of funnels for us that will take this data, our core positives, and we'll funnel them through those different things and begin to then prioritize on those that are most critical for us over this 5 years. We won't be able to do it all at one time. We'll start, I would suggest, with the low-hanging fruit and get some traction and move forward as a congregation. So that's the path that we're going to be following. Any question or thoughts that you might have, or am I like a fire hydrant? Is it too much? Good?
It's good.
Good. Everybody good so far? Does that make sense to you? You can tell I've done this process in churches at my own church. I've done it across the country. It's energizing. You can tell by my body language, I believe in it. It will be good for your congregation. So I'd like for us to briefly, I want to walk you through the past conversation. I'll tell you what's in my mind. Before we leave today, I'd like for us to schedule a next meeting, and you've got some work to prepare for it. We'll talk about that. And I would like to lead you as a small group through the past conversation, because you are going to be the facilitator and the recorder of these small group conversations in your congregation. I have, based on the Lilly grant, I have 5 hours of coaching that I can spend with you between now and the end of December. And then we start again. So Lilly, Uncle Lilly is really big on budgets and stuff. So we're trying to stay within what we recommended to them. Now, Joel or whoever becomes chair of your committee, you can call me or email me anytime if you got a question. So I am good. I'm committed to you. So that's good. But as far as officially, this is an hour. So you get my point. So I'm going to be training you to do these conversations. So I think it's important each time that at least I model the conversation for you, so you'll have a feel for it, and then you'll be able to facilitate it better, or at least you'll more effectively. You'll feel more comfortable doing it. So the purpose of this past conversation is you're going to be looking at your history. There is a book. It's written by Mark Branson. It's called Memories, Hopes, and Conversations. Joel, if you don't have it, you ought to pick it up. It's really the bedrock for this whole kind of congregational engagement. It's cool. I can send that to you, Joel, afterwards if you want me to. But it's really, really good. So what we're doing is we're going back and these group conversations are simple, but the process of them is really listening to one another's story about when did I come here? Why did I come? Why have I stayed? And you're going to take time literally to have these meaningful conversations around the table with with one another. It's not rocket science. It's the process. The process will be more, and you can quote me, the process will be more significant, lasting than the product. You know, you and I could sit down and write a plan, but is that energizing? Heck no. The process of everybody in your church, I know this, and I have never met them. They want to be a part of something meaningful. They want to be seen and heard. And this process will bring them to the table and say, you're important to the future of our church. So we're going to look at our history. Now, we're going to construct a timeline. And we're going to be using, and this is going to be in a Zoom world, obviously, this next month as we do this. So we're going to be using Mural. Mural is the ability, it's like an online graphic timeline that is already put together for you. Shanti has already done that for us. We're going to post in real time in these breakout sessions. They're going to fill out a sticky note, and we're going to be putting them on your church's timeline. Mural is a platform, and it works very similar to Google Docs or any of those kinds of things. Multiple users can add sticky notes to it at the same time. And after this meeting, Shanti's going to send you a link with the resources to help you to learn how to do it. Any questions that come up about Mural or about setting up this for Zoom, she'll give you, she will coach you through it. Thank God I don't have to do that. And you don't have to do that for yourself, but she will help you get up to speed with that. I'd like for you to begin work on doing that after this meeting. And you'll identify, some of you will be more comfortable doing that. Some of you may have used stuff like that before. I'll let you decide that as we move forward. So hold on to that, and you'll learn more about that through Shanti. 4 questions. That's all this past conversation is. Now, this past conversation is going to be anywhere from, I'd say 75 to 90 minutes long. We may do it a little shorter, but you're going to want to give, there are 4 questions, and you're going to want to give 10, 15 minutes of conversation around each of those questions as you move forward. The 4 questions are designed, this is our outcome. We want to come away, and the 4th question will help us distill that, the central values of the church. I'll call them core positives. I like the ring of that. You can call them what you want. I've had some churches call them provocative proposals. So whatever you want to call them, you decide what you want. I like also, as we move forward, to think in terms of God's dreams for who we are. But we'll be identifying these central traits. I will send you, well, let me go back to this. Shanti's going to send you an email. Joel, you can forward it on to the team, or she may send it to all of you. I'm not sure what information she may have. She may already have all of your contact information. She'll send you a discussion instructional sheet, how to get ready for this past conversation. She'll send you a link to your church's mural template that she's already set up for you, and then you can add to it. You know, one of the cool things you might think about adding to it is just some current events or historical events that people will recognize in their church. You know, things that happened over the course of your history. I've seen churches do some neat things with that. She'll give you when she's available, when you can contact her, and she'll walk alongside you. I want you to think about, how many do you think, Joel, as you think about your church, and in a best case scenario, or team you weigh in, how many do you think would be a good goal to engage in this past conversation? What would be a healthy, a goal to strive for? How many would you like to see participate?
You mean how many people?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, our church runs on, we had finally worked up to, we were averaging over 20 in worship on Sunday morning, and we probably had an active congregation of about 30.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like when we talk about this team really represents probably half of our family units.
Yeah, good.
Third. So, and then when you add that with our council, it's a good portion of the congregation.
So then, and I'm thinking about youth and older, not children, but youth and older.
Well, and when you limit it to that, there's probably going to be, if we're fortunate, 15 to 20 participants would be actually a very good number for us to achieve.
Okay, 15 to 20. So we could do this, literally, you could do it in one Zoom meeting and have two breakout groups of 10 each, correct?
Yes, that's what I was thinking. And Andy just put in the chat room that he would love to sort of take the lead on this particular stage of work. Andy, we've got a church history. I don't think you've probably seen it, but I'll make sure you get it if you're willing to help us set up the mural timeline.
Oh, great.
That'll be great.
Yeah. And I think that is great. So you know, if you have, as you do it, you've got, you might want to think of in terms of, if you do it in one night, two small group facilitators that would handle the questioning. And I've always found it helpful to have somebody else responsible for recording. One will help, will listen well. It's always good to have two sets of ears. And what you want to do in these conversations, and we'll talk about this when we model it. In fact, I'll get one of you to do that as with me. What we'll do is you'll want to record the anecdotal phrases, the narratives, the stories, the things that are bubbling up. What we want to do as we report back to the congregation is to authenticate what is one of our values, is that we want to listen well to you. You matter. What you say is meaningful. We want this to be we want it to be radically congregational. If we don't have that kind of investment and don't validate that in the way we behave and do the work, then it won't stick. We won't be able to carry this on our own. So I think so that's part of one of those kind of, that's part of our covenant with one another, that we're going to listen well. And so we need to model that. So be thinking about it. So Andy, I thank you for that. So let's just, that's it with the slide. So slide fatigue, forget it. Okay. Now so let's do this. Let's schedule our next meeting. Let's plan to model this conversation. I'll look at we need to sync our calendars. I'll facilitate it. I'll get one of you, Andy, you may want to be the recorder or help with so you can handle the mural for that. So that means you'd need to get up to speed on it. We'll need one other person to do that if we schedule one church Zoom meeting and then try to seek to have, and it may be that, 10 or 12 show up, and after we do it, we say, hey, let's try to get 6 or 8 more involved because we want to hear from them. So we may, we'll be flexible enough. We'll do what we need to. I think we could do this, but before Thanksgiving, or by the end of the first week of December, whatever works. We want to get as many people to the table as we can, even if it means we may have to do 1 or 2 with a group of 2 or 3, just so we want their voice. We want them to know they matter. You might think also about church-wide branding and communication. Do you want to call this Project Thrive, or does that sound too? Do you want to call it something just for you? That's up to you to decide. Do you want to brand this for these conversations? Put a logo to it, so that when people see it, they know what we're talking about. That's for you to decide. I'd like for you to think about that. And then we need to go away from tonight, and by we got to establish a calendar. When can we meet with the congregation? How do we begin enlisting and promoting it? And I wouldn't just leave it to Joel to mention it in a worship time. It's going to have to be, you're going to have to enlist them. We want people to know we really want you to engage. Okay, I'll shut up. What questions? What do we need to do first in terms of scheduling and getting ready for this next?
Oh, are you muted, Jill? I think you're muted.
I was pressing the space bar, I promise. And it said unmuted at the bottom. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Bill, as you and I discussed at the beginning of this session, and then also early in the emails, we had decided as a group already that we wanted our monthly meetings to be our scheduled monthly meetings. That didn't mean we couldn't have more, but our scheduled monthly meetings to try to be the 4th Thursday night of the month. So the next meeting we already have on our calendar is the 22nd at 6:30. Can you meet with us on the 22nd at 6:30?
Let me look. The 22nd?
Right, October 22nd at 6:30.
Okay, 6:30. Is there any way we could do it if we give us 90 minutes? I have a 7:30 that night with Church of the Messiah. Is there any way we could do it at 6? Or do you want to
ask you guys to weigh in one at a time? Andy, could you do 6 o'clock on the 22nd? Brett, could you do 6 o'clock on the 22nd? I can't hear you, buddy. Still can't hear you. You're gonna have to click on the unmute.
All right. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
The date in question, Brett, was the 22nd. Could you meet at 6 o'clock? Well, we had him. We've lost him again. Bill, can you unshare the screen?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Maybe causing some challenges with the muting and unmuting. All right, and let's go ahead and let everybody unmute just for a minute while we're doing this time. There you go, Brett. Brett, can you do the 22nd at 6 o'clock?
I can.
Okay. And Lauren?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And Jeannie? We may have already lost Jeannie. She is the secretary of
She is on. She's on here. Can let me see if I can ask her to. I see her on the frame.
Yeah, she was the one. She's the one I told you, Bill. She's blind, very active in the Tennessee Organization for the Blind. I'm not getting that name right.
Awesome.
Yes. Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hi, Jeannie.
Okay. Yes.
Can you meet that we had already scheduled that 22nd, but can you do it at 6 instead of 6:30?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And I can too. So that's everybody. So is that going to work for you, Bill, the 22nd?
Yeah, then that'll work for you too, because that means we'll do it in 75 minutes because I've got to start another one at 7:30.
Okay.
So you'll appreciate that. And what I want to accomplish is for you to get a feel for it, because I'm going to want you, as you're in the groups with the, as you facilitate your own with the congregation, I'll want you to participate with them as you go around the table. Sometimes the facilitator, depending on your group, sometimes you have to kind of prime the pump and lead the way, show model for them. So you may want to share your thoughts or experience around that, whatever the specific question is. So that night we'll be able to do that. I'm pretty confident. So I'm going to put 6 o'clock there for us, the 22nd. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Between now and then, Andrew, are you and maybe a couple of you, or Andrew, then you could be the trainer for if somebody else, if you're going to use 2 breakout rooms, y'all will make that call. But I'll make sure that you want to make sure that you check in with Shanti, and she'll get you up to speed. She's already developed a video tutorial. You won't have any trouble. It's very intuitive. The platform is. You won't have any trouble.
And just as an aside, I'll be interested to see how accessible it is.
Yes.
Oh, for in terms of the congregation?
No, in terms of my having to use it without vision.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think you'll be able to work through it because it's brief. The content we're asking for is written notes or anecdotal, right? So I don't think it'll be difficult. Yeah.
What's really important, just so you'll know this, is I have what's called a screen reader, which is the software in my computer that reads to me what is on the screen. It will read plain text. If everything is in images, it will not read that.
Okay. Okay. Andrew, you may want to communicate that.
Yeah, what I can do is if we need to, I can transcribe the documentation into just a text format, so that way it can be in a very consumable format based on her requirements. I'll work with Jeannie. Jeannie, I'll work with you on that, so we can, and then maybe some we can give back to them too. So in the future, if they run into this,
I like that.
They'll have a methodology for addressing it, so we can kind of make it up.
Yep, sounds good.
I like that.
And I'm going to have to go, guys. So, but thank you very much.
It was Bye, Jeannie.
Later. Bye, Jeannie.
Bye, Jeannie.
Bye-bye.
See you in worship.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Well, okay. Let me just say this then, it's time for us all to go. An email is going to come from Shanti.
Okay.
It'll have resources for the mural.
Okay.
She's also available. I think it's like Tuesdays and Thursdays where you can speak to her directly. You'll be able to touch base with her and respond to her email. She's really responsive. And ideally, we'd like for 2 of you to be able to handle this if we anticipate the breakouts. Now, if you decide to you may decide you want 2 different dates to give more flexibility to people because of calendars and such. I just want to really encourage you to try to get every adult and everybody engaged in some way, whatever it takes to do that.
Okay. And Julie, would you, since you're well, I guess between you and Lauren on who's the longest standing member of our church who's active in this group, but would you be willing to come alongside Andy in case he has questions? You know, he'll have the church history and he sees that this happened in 2001.
I'm happy to help. Happy to help. Now I can unmute, but it's noisy here. But I'm happy to help with that. And I'm wondering, maybe this is not the time to talk about it, but if we may have luck even after our church meeting someday, like during one of our virtual potlucks, maybe to kind of explore that as a time frame to get everybody to chime in on that.
I was thinking about that as well, Julie. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Good idea. Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, I'm so pleased that you're for your commitment to this work, and I'm glad to meet you. And I look forward to the journey together. We'll have some periods where we're going to be excited moving forward, and then there'll be some times when we felt, what in the world did I get into? So we'll press through it. I guarantee you.
Oh, and also for me, ditto with Julie. Yes, I can help Andy in any way. And if we need to call people to tell them about the meetings, or rather than just an announcement, I was thinking that I'd be happy to call.
Yeah, generally that's where most people land.
Yeah, the church, 5 calls a piece, or even 4 calls a piece, I think, with the entire adult population. And that's a very personal way to reach out to them and say, we really want you to be involved.
Yeah.
Whether an email or a text or, personal phone call. So that's a good idea, Lauren. I think that's where we're probably going to end up.
Thank you.
If you think about it just in terms of engagement, if people are engaged, they'll invest themselves in it. If they feel like they matter, that's what we want. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks, Bill.
Right.
Thank you.
It was nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you 6 o'clock on the 22nd.
Brett, tell the girls, Forrest, run.
Andy, Joel,
swim.
Any questions, whatever, don't hesitate to contact me.
Got it, Bill.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Blessings.
Everybody have a good day.
Hey, Joel, I've got this recording.
Okay, great. If Lauren would record it, but you got in on it pretty early, so I think we probably have it. But
yeah, I am so sorry. I'm going to listen to the beginning of it. Yeah, sorry about that.
So do you have it?
You're talking to me?
Yeah. Do I need to send you the link?
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Yes.
I think it'll take it a little while. I'll get it to you sometime this weekend. Okay. All right. Blessings.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.